what is equivalence partitioning. So equivalence partitioning is one of the black box test design technique, right? So we have understood about what is black box test design, what are black box test design technique, right? So equivalence partition is one of the black box test design technique, and it can be applied at all levels of testing, right? So equivalence partitioning, so there is a word equivalence and then there is a partition word, right? So equivalence partition, the idea behind it, say for example, you have a text box on a particular website that you want to test against, right? So just a simple, very simple example. And that text box only accepts the values, only numbers 1 to 10, right? So if I have to ask how many partitions or valid and invalid partitions are possible, then if I talk about the valid partition, it will be 1 to 10 because that particular text box only accepts the numbers 1 to 10. So that's the valid partition, right? And then invalid partition is anything less than 10, less than 1, okay? And anything more than 10. So those two are the invalid partition, right? And any random number, that is basically, exploratory, that comes into the exploratory testing. But in terms of partition, because this is a text box that only accepts 1 to 10 numbers, so 1 to 10 is the valid partition, right? And then there are two invalid partition, which are one is above 10 and another one is below 1, right? So when you have any such scenarios wherein you can think that yes, I can partition these, there is a logical acceptance of the values in this particular text box, or there is a logical calculation that happens that if the purchase amount is 500, this percent discount. If it is more than 500 and less than 1000, this percentage discount. So you can apply this partition technique to come up with the test scenarios, right? Test conditions. Okay. So what the idea behind equivalence partition is, now we have a text box which accepts only 1 to 10 numbers. So we have 3 partitions, 2 invalid and 1 valid. So instead of testing everything randomly, now we can test one value in each partition, and that will most probably give you good coverage. Why? Because it is assumed that if one value in a partition behaves in a proper way, then all other values are going to behave in a proper way as well. Now these conditions are true most of the time, but not always, right? And that is where you need to also come up with more scenarios if required, okay? But most of the time, this equivalence class partition or equivalence class or equivalence partitioning will help you to achieve any of this testing, right? So that's what equivalence partitioning is all about.